Did you know that in Florida, irrigation codes aren't found in just one single law or book? Instead, they're spread across plumbing codes, water conservation programs, and best management practices. That can make it a little confusing for technicians who are just starting out. I'm Dr. DeBusk, and in this video, we're going to explore Florida's irrigation codes and regulations. We'll look at the major sources that guide how irrigation systems are designed, installed, and maintained, including the Florida Plumbing Code, Florida Water Star, Florida Friendly Landscaping Principles, and the Irrigation Association's best management practices. By the end, you'll see how all these standards fit together to ensure systems are not only efficient, but also protect people, plants, and our most important resource, water. Appendix F in the Florida Plumbing Code is where irrigation standards begin. While it's technically a proposed model ordinance, many Florida cities, counties, and industry groups use it as the foundation for their irrigation codes. What makes it powerful is how well it lines up with national best management practices. That means if you learn these standards, you're not just following rules, you're learning the professional baseline for irrigation across the country. So where exactly does Appendix F apply? These codes cover all residential and commercial irrigation systems. That means if you're working on a neighborhood lawn system or a business property, Appendix F applies to you. But there are a few exceptions. Golf courses, nurseries, greenhouses, and agricultural production systems aren't included under this code. And here's something important. It's not just for brand new installations. Anytime new work is done on an existing irrigation system, that work has to meet the standards in Appendix F as well. The design criteria in Appendix F give us the rules for how irrigation systems should be laid out. First, we always use the lowest quality water source available on site, like a pond or reclaimed water, before turning to potable water. That's about conservation. Next, sprinkler types can't be mixed in the same zone. You can't put spray heads and rotors together because they apply water at very different rates, which leads to uneven watering. Sprinkler spacing is also important. Sprinklers should be placed in all corners and around the perimeter for head-to-head coverage. Single row spacing is only allowed if a second row would cause problems, like saturated soils at the bottom of a slope. For microirrigation, the standard is to wet 100% of the root zone for turf, but only 50% of the root zone for shrubs and trees. And in narrow areas under 4 feet wide, microirrigation or low-volume heads are required. These rules are all about applying the right amount of water to the right area without waste. Pipeline sizing is another critical piece. Appendix F requires irrigation pipes to be sized so pressure variations are minimized and velocity stays below 5 feet per second. That keeps water distribution uniform and prevents damage to the system. As irrigation systems age, leaks or changes in nozzles can increase flow, so it's on the technician to correct those problems to stay compliant. Appendix F also sets standards for irrigation controllers and sensors. Every controller must be capable of connecting to a range shutoff device or a soil moisture sensor. That's actually required by Florida Statute 373.62. Placement of these sensors is also specified. They have to be on a fixed structure at least 5 feet away from other outdoor equipment, above the spray of the sprinklers, and clear of tree canopy or overhead obstructions. This ensures they're actually measuring the weather or soil moisture correctly. Wireless rain sensors are also an option, and they make it easier to move the device if conditions change. The bottom line is that every system in Florida must have a working sensor to prevent watering during or right after rainfall. Appendix F also gets very specific about materials and sprinkler placement. Sprinklers can't be directed onto sidewalks, roads, or buildings. That's overspray, and it wastes water and creates hazards. There are spacing rules too. Sprinklers must be at least 4 inches from pavement and 12 inches away from buildings or vertical structures. In traffic areas or along roadways, polyethylene nipples can't be used because they're too vulnerable to damage. And finally, surface-mounted and pop-up heads must be installed on swing joints or flexible pipe. That way, if the head gets bumped by maintenance equipment, it has some give instead of breaking the pipe. Now let's talk about wiring. Appendix F requires a minimum of 14-gauge AWG control wire. though irrigation best management practices suggest 18 gauge as a common standard. All wire connections must use UL-approved devices specifically designed for direct burial, and every splice has to be enclosed inside a valve box. Low voltage wire that isn't under the main line must be buried at least 12 inches deep, and when you're working in a valve box, you'll need at least 24 inches of free wire to make repairs, though 48 inches is even better. One more detail. Common wires must be a different color, typically white, so you can easily tell them apart from power wires. And any above-ground wire runs have to be protected with conduit, unless it's just a short connection to an above-ground valve. Valve installation is another area where Appendix F is very clear. Valves have to be installed in boxes with lids and with enough clearance for proper operation and maintenance. Cover depth depends on location, at least 6 inches in non-traffic areas and 18 inches in traffic areas. Inside the box, soils need to be kept out by using filter fabric or other barriers. And in fact, landscape fabric is preferred over pea gravel for long-term maintenance. And finally, valve boxes must be flush with the ground surface. That way, they don't create a tripping hazard and they don't interfere with mowing or other landscape maintenance. Appendix F also outlines pipe installation and system management. Pipe burial depth depends on the pipe size and whether it's under a traffic area. Larger pipes in vehicle areas require more depth. And remember, pipes should never be stacked on top of each other in a trench. You always need a layer of soil in between for repair access. Every irrigation system must also have a record drawing, a map of the system showing zone layout, components, and sensor locations. This documentation is essential for service technicians down the road. And lastly, irrigation scheduling. Appendix F requires adjusting schedules at least 4 times per year to match the seasons, but it recommends monthly adjustments for maximum efficiency. That means systems aren't just installed, they're actively managed to meet plant needs while saving water. Florida Water Star is a water conservation certification program for both new and existing homes and commercial developments. It was first developed in 2006 by the St. Johns River Water Management District and expanded statewide in 2012. The program builds on research from the University of Florida, the Irrigation Association, and Florida Friendly Landscaping. By combining landscape and irrigation standards, it ensures water is used efficiently in the landscape. Florida Water Star is even tied to Florida Home Builders Association Certified Ratings Program, which shows how widely it's recognized. While Florida Water Star is a certification program, its principles apply to all irrigation systems, whether a property is going for certification or not. Every irrigation system should follow these guidelines because they're rooted in efficiency and conservation. FNGLA certified irrigation service technicians are expected to use them in their daily work as best practices. The first set of standards focuses on irrigation design. High volume irrigation, that's anything over half a gallon per minute per nozzle, can't cover more than 60% of the total landscaped area. In other words, large spray heads should not dominate the site. For landscape beds, microirrigation is required, and turf must always be zoned separately from beds. And in tight areas, like a narrow strip under 4 feet wide, only microirrigation is allowed. These rules make sure water goes where it's actually needed. WaterStar also requires specific installation details. Sprinklers and emitters must be at least 2 feet away from buildings or other structures, and the system must be free from leaks. In low-lying areas, sprinklers have to include check valves to prevent low head drainage, and that's when water drains out of the heads after shutoff. Sprinkler heads must also rise above the turf grass. For St. Augustine, zoysia, and bahia grasses, that means at least a 6-inch pop-up for spray heads and 4-inch for rotors. For shorter grasses like Bermuda and paspalum, 4 inches is enough for both sprays and rotors. Efficiency is at the heart of Florida Water Star. Sprinklers must apply water in proper spray patterns without overspray onto hard surfaces. Pipes must be sized to keep water velocity under 5 feet per second. Within a zone, all sprinklers must have matched precipitation rates. That means quarter, half, and full circle nozzles are balanced so they apply the same depth of water. All spray nozzles must also be pressure regulated, and spacing must follow the head-to-head standard. which means every sprinkler's throw should reach the next sprinkler. These details ensure uniform coverage without waste. Florida law requires every controller to have a functioning rain shutoff device or soil moisture sensor. Beyond that, Florida WaterStar emphasizes homeowner education. Each homeowner must be provided with the controller manual, an as-is diagram of the zones and components, precipitation rates for each zone, and recommended run times for winter and summer. If the property is owner-occupied, the homeowner must also be trained on how to adjust the controller schedule, both for maintenance and for responding to local watering restrictions. Florida WaterStar isn't just about efficient irrigation. It's also a career opportunity. Many cities and counties have adopted these criteria into their codes, and developers are looking for irrigation professionals who can deliver certified systems. By earning the Florida WaterStar Accredited Professional designation, you show you've mastered water-efficient irrigation practices. FNGLA provides the training and testing for this certification, which connects you to some of Florida's best irrigation and landscape professionals. Florida-Friendly Landscaping, or FFL, was created in 2008 as a way to bring together several programs. These included Florida Yards and Neighborhoods for homeowners, the Builder and Developer programs, and the Green Industries Best Management Practices program for professionals. Because Florida-Friendly Landscaping is written into state law, it's recognized as the guiding philosophy for sustainable landscapes across the state. So what does Florida-Friendly really mean? At its core, it's about using low-maintenance plants and environmentally sustainable practices that work in Florida's unique climate. What makes it powerful is that it applies to both homeowners and professionals. And for irrigation technicians, the key connection is the second principle, water efficiently, which ties directly into the standards we've already covered in Florida WaterStar. There are 9 Florida-friendly landscaping principles. Let's walk through them. 1. Right plant, right place. 2. Water efficiently. 3. Fertilize appropriately. 4. Mulch. 5. Attract wildlife. 6. Manage yard pests responsibly. 7. Recycle yard waste. 8. Reduce stormwater runoff. 9. Protect the waterfront. Notice that principle number 2, water efficiently, is exactly where irrigation professionals have the biggest role to play. Part of Florida-Friendly Landscaping includes the Green Industries Best Management Practices program, or GIBMP. This is a science-based training program for lawn care and landscape maintenance professionals. It teaches environmentally safe landscaping practices that conserve water and protect Florida's ground and surface waters. In many areas, irrigation contractors and technicians are required by local ordinance to complete this training, while others participate voluntarily to improve their services. For irrigation technicians, Florida-friendly landscaping principles aren't just about plants. They're about professionalism. By following these guidelines, you help create landscapes that are sustainable, save homeowners water and money, and protect Florida's environment. In fact, many local governments require GIBMP certification for anyone working in irrigation and landscape services. And when you combine Florida-friendly practices with Florida WaterStar and Appendix F, you're giving clients the best of efficiency, compliance, and sustainability. Let's compare a traditional Florida yard to a Florida-friendly yard. In a traditional setup, you'll often see turf grass everywhere with high-maintenance watering, overspray onto driveways, lots of fertilizer and pesticide use, and stormwater runoff carrying chemicals into nearby waterways. Now, look at a Florida-friendly yard. Instead of wall-to-wall turf, it has drought-tolerant plants in the right spots. Beds are irrigated with micro-irrigation, mulch keeps soil moisture in place, and runoff is reduced. The result? Lower maintenance, less water use, and a healthier environment. This is exactly the type of outcome irrigation technicians should be aiming for when applying the Florida-friendly principles. The Irrigation Association, along with the American Society of Irrigation Consultants, created a set of best management practices for landscape irrigation. These BMPs provide broad, research-based standards for efficient irrigation that can be adapted locally. What makes them important is that they involve all the stakeholders, from water suppliers and contractors to system owners, designers, and public agencies. Everyone has a role in making irrigation more efficient and sustainable. So why do BMPs matter? First, they improve efficiency by making sure irrigation systems apply the right amount of water evenly and consistently. They optimize water use in both new and existing landscapes, which not only conserves water, but also reduces the energy costs of pumping and treatment. Finally, BMPs provide a framework for local agencies to plan for drought and manage water more responsibly. They make irrigation part of the bigger picture of water conservation. The BMPs focus on three key areas: design, installation, and management. Design includes efficient layouts, zoning turf and landscape beds separately, and proper pipe sizing. Installation emphasizes using quality materials, following standards, and ensuring systems are built correctly from the start. Management means ongoing adjustments for seasonal changes, proper scheduling, and keeping accurate records of the system. Together, these three areas form the foundation for professional irrigation practice. For irrigation technicians, BMPs provide a professional baseline. They help ensure that your work meets industry standards and aligns with Florida codes and certifications programs like Florida WaterStar. Following BMPs also builds credibility with clients. You're not just installing sprinklers. You're protecting landscapes, conserving water, and showing clients that their system was designed and maintained at the highest level. To wrap up, the Irrigation Association BMPs are broad, adaptable standards that focus on design, installation, and management. They link local practice here in Florida to national best practices, and they give technicians the framework for professional, efficient, and sustainable irrigation work. In short, BMPs aren't just guidelines. They're the backbone of professional irrigation standards nationwide. Licensing for irrigation work in Florida isn't the same everywhere. In some areas, you don't need a license at all. In others, you'll need a city or county business license just to operate legally. And in certain places, you may be required to pass a licensing exam before you can perform irrigation service work. That's why it's critical for companies and technicians to check the specific rules in each location they're working in. Florida also offers a voluntary state irrigation contractor license through the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, or DBPR. To get this license, you must pass 2 exams, obtain the required bond, and then register the license with every city and county where you plan to work. This state license isn't required everywhere, but it shows professionalism and makes it easier to work across multiple jurisdictions. So why does licensing matter? First, it ensures that you're following the codes and best management practices required in your area. It also builds trust with customers. They know you're a legitimate professional. Licensing protects both the technician and the company legally, and in many cases, it opens doors to more job opportunities and contracts, since developers and municipalities often require licensed contractors. Let's wrap up this section on Florida codes and regulations. First, Appendix F of the Florida Plumbing Code sets the foundation for irrigation system design, installation, and management. It's the model ordinance for most local codes. Florida WaterStar adds a certification approach, emphasizing water efficiency, microirrigation, and homeowner education. Florida-friendly landscaping expands the focus to 9 guiding principles for sustainable yards, with water efficiently being the principle most relevant to irrigation technicians. The Irrigation Association's best management practices link Florida's local standards to national professional practices, reinforcing design, installation, and management as the 3 pillars. Finally, licensing, whether it's local or the voluntary state irrigation license, ensures compliance, builds credibility, and opens more career opportunities. Together, these programs and codes give irrigation technicians a complete framework for doing their jobs responsibly, legally, and sustainably.